The second term that we're going to discuss today that is relating to the Austrian economics is time preference, which was discussed in our last reel. Time preference is our ability to wait for a good in the future. So if we have a high time preference, we want everything right now. Whereas if we have a low time preference, we're willing to wait. We're willing to delay consumption for the future, which is where we'll benefit from the rewards of our patience. Hayek is an Austrian economist who came up with the triangle of production, and the triangle of production is made out of higher order goods and lower order goods. Those that are higher order goods are called capital goods, which usually represent machinery or other goods that are used to create other goods. The further you are up on the production triangle, the higher order your good, the further away you are from your final goods, which are your consumption goods, which could be your burgers, they could be your t-shirts, they could be anything that you purchase as a consumer. They're the lower order goods. If you have a high time preference, all you're focused on is consuming right now. If you're investing in capital goods, there's time implicit in you waiting for the capital goods to create your consumer goods over time. So that waiting period, that time that it takes to create those consumer goods is your low time preference. How does time preference affect interest rates? If you have a low time preference, so you don't need everything right now, you're willing to wait, you're more akin to saving. So what does saving do? If you keep saving, so you have these savings, that means that there's more money available for other people to use. Okay, so if you have 10,000 saved and you're not using it, that means that 10,000 can be used to lend out to someone else, so someone else can use that for whatever their project is. The more money that is available for people to borrow, the lower interest rates tend to be, because interest rates, all they are a sign of the cost of borrowing, and the less their money there is available for borrowing, the higher the cost of borrowing. It's just a simple supply and demand graph. So low time preference leads to low interest rates. This is removed from the central bank interest rates that are imposed onto us. So the central bank lowers down interest rates artificially, but that doesn't actually represent the actions of the individual within the society. So because of that artificial suppression of interest rates, that means everyone has access to cheap money when they shouldn't have access to cheap money, and they end up allocating that money into projects that are not viable. Everyone is looking for a return on their money through different types of projects, and because people are scrambling to use their money to get a return on it, to surpass inflation, it means money is allocated into stupid projects that aren't valuable to human beings. So time preference is huge in developing society over time. If your society exhibits low time preference, and if they exhibit that characteristic, it allows for more resources to be funneled into higher order goods, those capital goods that produce those consumer goods. In a country that shows that ends up allocating their resources to these higher order goods to produce consumer goods that humans want and need, it means that the whole economy becomes more efficient, because these higher order capital goods are ways of creating more consumer goods at a cheaper price, which brings down prices further and allows there to be more abundance of food, technology, science, everything. So money is the building block of our time preference. Money is what influences our time preference ultimately. If we have a money that's degrading and debasing over the course of time, so if our money is losing value, we're incentivized to use it right away. If we earn the money, we're incentivized to use it right now, which means we don't get to save that money and we don't get to allocate that money to higher order capital goods. Whereas if the money shows characteristics of accruing in value instead of being debased and losing value over time, the way the dollar or the pound does, if our money accretes in value and becomes more valuable, we're incentivized to save. We're incentivized to invest in higher order capital goods to produce more consumer goods so that we have cheaper goods over time. We don't want to consume right now, we want to wait to consume in the future. What that does is that creates more abundance for everyone and cheaper prices. So you take the pick. What money do you think contributes towards the building of civilization more? Money that is debased and decreases in value over time, which incentivizes consumption and a high time preference, or money that accretes in value, that becomes more valuable over time and incentivizes us to save and to invest in infrastructure that creates more consumer goods?